see ourselves as victims of climate change, but also active stakeholders in seeking solutions. We've undertaken significant actions in order to build resilience and our ability to adapt. This includes sustainable management strategies for our natural resources, promoting clean and renewable energy, and adapting vital infrastructure in order to withstand the impact of the climate. Conserving biodiversity is a top priority for us. Our country is blessed with a rich biodiversity in species and ecosystems. They're unique, and we are committed to protecting them for future generations. We believe that biodiversity is inextricably linked to our very resilience as a nation. Our goal is reflected in the fact that we've declared over 26% of our land surface as protected areas. This goes beyond Aichi Target 11 of the United Nations Convention on Biodiversity. Ladies and gentlemen, all of these issues show us that the climate crisis is a global threat which requires a global response. No country can be left behind. And it's absolutely vital that developed nations meet their financial and technical assistance obligations by helping developing countries to face the challenges posed by climate change. With regard to financial resources, we would like to reiterate the need for new and additional funding for supporting adaptation and mitigation of climate change in developing countries. These resources are vital for developing countries so that we can implement the necessary measures to tackle this crisis. With regard to loss and damage caused by the climate, we call for a more robust and equitable approach. The most vulnerable communities cannot be left to fend for themselves as they tackle the devastating effects of extreme weather events and natural disasters. We would like to strengthen our commitment to the Paris Agreement and build a new climate regime based on justice and equity. Nevertheless, we need to take a meaningful stocktake of our progress up until now. Time's running out, and decisive action is needed to avoid the worst possible consequences of climate change. It's in this spirit that Guinea-Bissau is committed to cooperating with all the countries attending this conference. Together, we can define the path and adopt appropriate measures for a more sustainable, resilient and fairer future for all nations and for future generations, with a view to protecting our planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Mr. Denis Sassou Nguesso, President of Congo. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Mesdames et Messieurs,
ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and government, United Nations Secretary General, President of COP28, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to address my sincere thanks to His Highness Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, President of the United Arab Emirates, for the warm welcome and hospitality shown to my delegation and to me myself. I wish to take this opportunity to reiterate the Republic of Congo's steadfast commitment and determination to play an active role in the global effort to combat climate change. Before I go any further, please allow me to recall what we have achieved over the last 10 years or so at a national level and as the chair of the Congo Basin Climate Commission. Following the Paris Agreement, the vital role played by the Congo Basin tropical forests in regulating the climate was finally recognized, as it is seen as one of the last true lungs of the planet. Everyone knows what's at stake, and we have also identified the solutions. We're concerned at the need to find sustainable resources to fund forest ecosystem management and for conserving its biodiversity. This is why we launched the idea of establishing a blue fund for the Congo Basin with a view to reconciling the fight against climate change and economic development. We're also convinced of the importance of nature-based solution for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as those of the United Nations Decade for ecosystem restoration. This is why, at COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, I made a formal appeal for a world forestation decade to be established in order to revert the current trend of forest destruction. It's against this backdrop that 12 years on from the first summit, last October in Brazzaville, my country hosted the second summit of the 3 tropical forest basins, Amazonia, Borneo, Mekong, Southeast Asia, and Congo. Ladies and gentlemen, we face considerable challenges which grow year after year. Some are of our own making. It is down to us to spare no efforts to conserve the planet's last lungs and these jewels of biodiversity that are our tropical forests. Thus, the duty for solidarity through requests for financial compensation following some countries' voluntary foregoing of unsustainable development projects is an issue which merits the international community's full attention. It's this effort for solidarity and equity which is the duty of all countries, because we must all work together to work for a safer planet Earth, protected from the threats and devastating effects of climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not too late. It's never too late to do better. And I know, Your Excellency, President of COP28, that is your ambition. Please allow me to convey my own and the Congolese people's wishes to you. May they support you in making this global gathering in Dubai one which is epitomized by international solidarity. This is a fight we can't lose. Let's not forget that history will judge us on the way in which we've fought it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Mr. Mohamed Sheikh El Ghazazwani, President of Mauritania. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
أصحاب الجلالة والفخامة والسمو
Majesties, Excellencies,
المعالي
ladies and gentlemen,
السادة والسيدات أيها الحضور الكريم أود ابتداء أن
at the outset,
الشكر
I would like to extend my thanks and gratitude to my brother,
الإمارات العربية المتحدة
His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, President of the UAE, for the kind hospitality. I congratulate him and all Emiratis on the National Day and on the hosting of COP28 of the UNFCCC.
فلطالما تبوأت دولة الإمارات العربية
The United Arab Emirates
الرؤى الاستشراق
has always had guiding visions and leadership and has pioneered in enhancing sustainability in general and in facing environmental challenges. I also wish to congratulate His
على التنظيم المحكم
Highness Sheikh
كما أتقدم بالشكر الجزيل إلى صاحب المعالي
Sultan
تريس
Al-Jaber for his presidency of the COP. I also wish to thank the Secretary General of the UN for all efforts made in the fight against climate change. Ladies and gentlemen,
بأقوى وأوضح مما تتجلى
what we see today in environmental changes are very clear. Facing climate change today is a battle for all of us. We either all win or all lose. We all know that the only way to win this war is through concerted effort, through collective work, and that on two tracks. Firstly, to enhance adaptation and mitigation, facing adverse impact of climate change on all socioeconomic fabrics of societies, especially in the developing countries. And we must work on development tracks that do not rely on carbon but promote renewables. The results on both tracks depend on international cooperation and solidarity. It is clear to all that this solidarity is still not to the required level. It is therefore essential to improve finance for environmental transformation and to provide support to developing countries without adding to their debt. Mauritania, we are one of the countries most impacted by climate change and resulting drought, desertification, and rarity of rainfall. Deserts are now extended in our country, and the various waves of drought have led to attacking our societies, our vital sectors, such as water resources, agriculture, animal resources, aquatic resources, and natural ecosystems. Therefore, we are fully aware that dealing with climate change is an urgency on all levels: environmental, social, economic, and security.
في مكافحة التصحر
Efforts are made through the Great Green Wall, an important initiative, through the Sahel initiatives.
وباعتماد ميثاق مبادرة
And we have also adopted the Green Mediterranean Charter under the leadership of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We have always worked on the resources, maritime and coastal resources. In addition,
عفوا وعلاوة على ذلك سعينا بكل الجهود
we have made all efforts to enhance the capacity of our people to resist and adapt to climate change.
هذا على مستوى دعم
This
والصمود
for supporting resilience and adaptation. However, we also are working on the track of a low-carbon track through investing in new technologies. Even though we did not contribute much to global warming, we are investing in renewables,
هو صالح
making it
سنة 2020
34% of our national usage of energy, and we are aiming for 50%. In addition, we have a program for green hydrogen. We are confident that we will be able to achieve this objective,
المراجعة والمتمثل في خفض الانبعاثات
and we aim to reduce carbon emissions by 11%. However, in all these efforts, we still need, like most developing countries, an increase in international support to allow us to resist and adapt.
أجدد الدعوة
I renew
بمستوى الدعم
the call to increase support to developing countries in dealing with environmental challenges. I wish this COP all success, and I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Mr. Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, President of Kazakhstan. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Kazakhstan fully supports the United Nations' urgent call for tangible actions to safeguard our environment for future generations. We were the first country in the region to have ratified the Paris Agreement and adopted a carbon neutrality strategy for 2060. The resulting new environmental code of Kazakhstan will drive comprehensive adaptation of green technology in practically every sector of our national economy. This is extraordinary potential. There is extraordinary potential for wind and solar power in my country, as well as for green hydrogen. We will continue to work closely with our partners to unlock it. As the world's leading exporter of uranium, providing 43% of global supply, Kazakhstan plays a crucial role in carbon-free electricity generation on a global scale. Indeed, as the world decarbonizes in the coming decades, critical minerals, including rare earth metals, will become indispensable. Kazakhstan is poised to become a major supplier of these transition minerals. We are also actively supporting private green initiatives. For example, Kazakhstan-based the Plastic Association works on plastic waste-free projects contributing to eco-friendly solutions. Cutting methane emissions is the fastest opportunity we have to immediately slow the rate of global warming. That's why I am pleased to announce today that Kazakhstan has decided to join the Global Methane Pledge. At the same time, we are eager to tackle the enormous challenge of coal in our region by implementing our region's first ever Just Energy Transition Partnership in Kazakhstan. For both of these to succeed, we look to our friends and partners for their concrete support. More widely, we look to the international community to scale up its commitment to greater meaningful climate finance. But finance is just the first hurdle. Even if we successfully limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees by 2050, Central Asian countries will still experience up to 2.5 degrees of temperature rise. So adaptation is both inevitable and imperative. Therefore, we urge that more resources be allocated to support the International Fund for Saving the Aral Sea. Moreover, we are pleased, together with France, to co-chair the first One Water Summit on the margins of the next United Nations General Assembly. To build a momentum on climate action in Central Asia, we decided to convene a regional climate summit in Kazakhstan in 2026 under the United Nations auspices. The climate emergency is a global crisis that requires a global response. Kazakhstan firmly believes that only through collective action and cooperation we can resolve the climate crisis. And finally, I extend my warmest congratulations to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan for successful COP28 presidency. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Mr. Santiago Peña Palacios, President of Paraguay. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Excellencias.
Excellencies, it's an honor for me to take part in COP28. Different cultures and traditions are meeting here to define how we can address a common challenge together, the adverse effects of climate change. This shows that we can hold a dialogue between different traditions. We do hope that Dubai will be a landmark in measures to repair damage to the earth and sea caused by human hands. Protection measures for the environment must be robust and fair, and they must above all respect the guiding principles of the Paris Agreement, such as common but differentiated responsibilities, bearing in mind the different capacities and conditions of states, particularly those of us that need to strengthen our development. In my country, Paraguay, all energy is clean and renewable. Yes, you heard that right. All energy, 100% is clean and renewable. We have unique biodiversity and the potential to be a carbon sink. 44% of our land surface is forest, 15% of our land surface is protected forest. We are the 6th largest producer of soybean, and 94% of the land surface sown with it has not been deforested. We are one of the 10 leading exporters of beef, and it's of high quality thanks that we strictly comply with health protocols and natural grazing for our cattle. Our CO2 emissions are the lowest in the Latin American region, just 0.1% of global emissions. The 4th National Communication on Climate Change shows a 44% drop in emissions from farming and forestry, and a 14% drop in methane emissions in farming and livestock rearing compared to 2010. We've taken the first steps to join the voluntary carbon market. Paraguay is a key player in food and energy security. We have high environmental awareness, and we've taken measures to be considered an example. It's time that the world was aware of this. I urge the Convention to simplify processes and remove barriers to access to climate funding. The planet is our common home, and that's why we hope that everybody can take part in the COP. And this is why we propose that the Republic of China, Taiwan, be included in this process. Lastly, President, I would like to underscore the importance of promoting a fairer approach and one which doesn't impose penalties when it comes to tackling climate challenges. Developing countries cannot postpone their development because of unilateral, almost arbitrary demands. Dear friends, Paraguay defends a green, fraternal and prosperous planet in which we all meet our commitments to rebuild trust in the multilateral system. I'm firmly convinced that our joint efforts of leaving a decent legacy for future generations will prevail. We will be wise enough to leave a better world than the one we found. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Mr. Abdulatif Jamal Rashid, President of Iraq. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate, Your Royal Highnesses, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, peace be upon you. I would like to convey the best greetings from Iraq, the historical Mesopotamia, the cradle of human civilizations that has introduced knowledge, science, and law. Iraq was the first territory in which laws have been enacted based on its natural heritage taken from the rivers of Tigris and Euphrates. Both rivers are under threats of drought on the back of a number of impacts, including climate change. Iraq is a low emitter of global greenhouse gases. However, it is one of the most vulnerable countries of the world towards climate change, particularly when it comes to water and agriculture. Iraq faces serious water crises indeed. Because of the reduction of our water resources at source and the impact of climate change and the threats of traditional agriculture techniques, this have become a threat to our civilization, our present and our future. The drought of the marshes in the south of Iraq, which is already under the global heritage list, is the best example. The extreme weather events in Iraq, including the record level temperatures, low precipitations, have led to larger droughts, desertification, land degradation, and sand storms that have led to economic challenges that resulted in a larger level of poverty and internal displacement as well as external migration. The conflict over water is not new. And the status of Iraq as a downstream country is not scarce. Therefore, we would urge you to include the just distribution of water as part of your discussions when it comes to the loss and damages of the mainstream of the downstream countries in order to ensure their water security. I would like here to refer to our predecessors in Mesopotamia who developed solutions for this problem 4,500 years ago by concluding the first agreement for sharing water resources through negotiations. And here we are to negotiate at a global level a number of agreements, including the agreement on the protection of the sustainable use of transboundary water, which should be activated as promptly as possible, despite the fact that Iraq has only joined the UNFCCC in 2009 because of the neglect by the previous regime of environment. We are determined to increase our NDCs so as to increase our resilience towards climate change, mapping up our future plans for adaptation and mitigation and realization of Sustainable Development 2030. Therefore, the second national report of climate change and the biannual updated report on greenhouse gas emissions in Iraq are under preparation, the matter which reflects Iraq's commitment to its climate commitments. Based on the above, the Iraqi government has taken prompt actions to implement renewable and clean energy projects with a view to reducing GHG emissions that emanate from oil reduction, reaching net zero by 2030 through upgrading the capacities of the electricity grid. We are sure that the Dubai COP28 will come up with balanced and comprehensive as well as equitable outcomes when it comes to global assessment, just transition, the loss and damage fund, as well as the global adaptation goal based on the common but differentiated responsibility and as based on the national specificities and capabilities with a view to realizing sustainable and renewable clean energy. As we in the region of the Gulf, we are in the front lines of facing climate change consequences. The rising temperatures, particularly on the shoreline of the Gulf, will go beyond the 2%, the 2 Celsius limit. We are already suffering from rising temperatures, sandstorms, as well as water scarcities. And it has to be noted that these changes are no respecter of borders. And therefore, each one of our countries, when it comes to adaptation or mitigation, will have a positive impact on the other countries. We have no other choice but to pool our efforts to collectively face the risks of climate change with all our might. Out of this rostrum, we call upon the neighboring countries in the Gulf to exert collective efforts as a single unilateral negotiating bloc to take our unified position to ensure the climate future of us all and to realize a regional gathering for the riparian countries, the 8 riparian countries of the Gulf, to address the serious challenges of the climate change. We therefore, in conclusion, we condemn the aggressive assault against Gaza. We call upon the international community to stand firm against this assault. We reaffirm the Iraqi position for the Palestinian people to self-determination. And thank you very much, and peace be upon you all.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Mr. Alexander Vučić, President of Serbia. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. First and foremost, allow me to extend a heartfelt congratulations to the United Arab Emirates government for bringing the world together at a critical moment for global transformative climate action, despite the challenges we all face today worldwide. As we once again gather to face the greatest challenge of our time, we are at a critical time in the fight against climate change. Catastrophic global warming and ongoing extreme weather events are casting a dangerous shadow over our collective future. Today I stand before you not only as the representative of the Republic of Serbia, but also as a global citizen advocating for global well-being. Across the border of the Republic of Serbia, the echoes of climate change resonate disturbingly loudly. Our country is at the forefront, struggling with alarmingly high average temperatures above the global average, since average temperature in Serbia already increased by 1.8 degrees Celsius, and in summer it is as high as 2.6 degrees Celsius. At the same time, climate projections indicate that if we continue business as usual, by the end of the century we can expect an increase in the average temperature up to 5.8 degrees Celsius, a cataclysm of a kind that threatens our economic and social fabric. This year will most certainly take the infamous title of the warmest ever recorded, not just globally, but in our country as well. Aside from warmest months ever recorded being July, August, September, and October, we witnessed for the first time 2 tropical nights with temperatures over 20 degrees Celsius during the month of October, which is unheard of in Serbia. In addition, we are still calculating the damage drought made to our economy last year, while on the other hand, severe storms devastated our cities, causing a vast damage as well. We must stand united against climate change, and we must act now. We will continue to contribute to the global fight against climate change by improving our national system for mitigation and adaptation in line with our national circumstances and with the support of our development partners. In steadfast response to this existential threat, I'm honored to announce the government of the Republic of Serbia's unwavering commitment. In June of this year, we charted a transformative course with the adoption of our low-carbon development strategy, which served as the basis for revised national determined contribution that raised the ambition of our initial NDC by more than 3 times. Long-term requirements of the Paris Agreement as well as the EU accession process are the basis for long-term vision of the strategy that by 2050 Serbia will be a low-carbon society with a competitive and resource-efficient economy which provides to citizens new, green jobs and quality life in a climate-resilient society. With this in mind and guided by science, we also developed our climate change adaptation program, which is to be adopted in the forthcoming period. Adaptation program will provide climate risk and vulnerability assessment and propose medium and long-term adaptation policies and measures in the most vulnerable sectors such as agriculture, infrastructure, forestry, and human health. Recognizing that the fight against climate change transcends borders, we issue a solemn call to action for all. While our national progress is unstoppable, it is part of a larger puzzle. The Republic of Serbia is ready to play its role in the global orchestra against climate change. We call upon the international community, especially our developed counterparts, to honor their commitments to financial and technical assistance. Let this be a call for armed cooperation and shared responsibility, a call for the clarity of saying one against the pessimistic scenarios. Although I have to add something, which is my personal opinion, and once again, many thanks to Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the President of the United Arab Emirates, for his great hospitality. Just would like to say that we all gathered here because of a terribly difficult problem that we are facing with, which is climate change. But how are we going to resolve this issue if we are not able to resolve all the geopolitical problems we are facing with today? There are many wars throughout the world that we haven't been able to stop in the recent period. And moreover, I'm afraid that we won't be able to do so. If we were not capable of delivering results in this, how we can be so sure, how we can be so certain that we'll deliver the very best results, the very proper results on climate change issues as well. And just to add to that, I believe that bringing us all back to the real principles of the Organization of the United Nations that we established after the Second World War, because we have to act in accordance, in adherence with rules, regulations that were accepted by most of the members of the international community, by most or by all the states of international community. It has to happen, otherwise we'll always face arbitration, different approaches, and we'll never deliver better results even on this. You cannot have different approaches towards territorial integrities of some countries, and we as Serbia know this better than anyone else dare to say. And on the other hand, I heard today a phrase, as we come together, as we come together, as we come together. Let us find a common denominator which will find a way, find a path to resolve firstly the biggest geopolitical issues, and then to tackle in a very proper way an issue of climate changes, which is becoming one of the most important. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Mr. Wawel John Charles Rankalawan, President of Seychelles. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Your Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, President of COP28, Dr. Sultan Al Jaber, Heads of State and Government, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to express my gratitude to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan and to the people of the United Arab Emirates for the warm welcome and hospitality extended to my delegation and myself. I take this opportunity to congratulate you on the organization of COP28 and wish you prosperity as you celebrate your 52nd National Day. The collective efforts to foster cooperation in response to the most pressing issue of our time are indeed commendable. I am honored, therefore, to address this esteemed assembly on behalf of the people of Seychelles. In our shared pursuit of a sustainable future, the urgency of our deliberations here in Dubai cannot be overstated. As parties to the convention, we committed to deliver on commitments such as the USD 100 billion promise, scaling up adaptation finance, new collective quantified goal on finance, and most recently, the Loss and Damage Fund. We are yet at another COP, and I am disheartened to state that most of these commitments are yet to be fulfilled, despite the urgency required to address the climate crisis. As leaders, I call for your unwavering shift in political will that will translate into concrete actions so as to confine global temperature rise within the critical threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, small island developing states are on the front line of climate change, facing rising sea levels, coastal erosion, increased frequency of extreme weather events, and the loss of vital ecosystems. Whether we are high income, low income, or among the least developed countries, our specificities are the same, and what the industrialized nations emit have a direct impact on our coastlines and livelihoods. We are simply islands floating in the ocean, and therefore we must be treated as a unique and separate category when it comes to assisting us. I call on SEEDS to unite and support each other. As I speak, my country is experiencing devastating impacts of climate change, specifically damage to the coastline and critical coastal infrastructure caused by higher tides, frequent storm surges, and heavy rainfall. Coupled with other impacts, these are endangering the livelihoods of my people and our islands. A recent comprehensive survey only on the main populated granitic islands of the Seychelles, conducted by our technical teams, estimated that we need over 50 million USD for road infrastructure works and other measures to mitigate coastal erosion. Our updated NDC highlighted a further 600 million USD will be required over the next 10 years for both mitigation and adaptation sector, translating to 5% of GDP annually or 10% of the annual budget. If we are to add the disaster happening to our Coraline Islands, that figure could be doubled, let alone tripled. Like many seeds, 90% of the country's infrastructure and human activities occur along its low-lying coastal areas and are thus vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. The current trajectory means Seychelles' economy stands to be severely undermined, whereby forcing us to divert much-needed finance to environment protection instead of investing in education, health, sports, agriculture, food security, modernization, and giving our people a better standard of living. Ladies and gentlemen, we made history last year by establishing the Loss and Damage Fund, and this year we made history again by operationalizing the Loss and Damage Fund on the first day of this COP, with UAE and Germany pledging $100 million each. It is absolutely vital that this fund is equitable and genuinely helpful to countries that are experiencing climate-related disasters. It should be inclusive enough without limiting access to finance, especially for high-income seeds like Seychelles. We need less complicated and complex financial mechanisms that will allow us seeds to easily access those financial opportunities. Again, my call is to consider our special circumstances as islands in the middle of oceans. Seychelles, for example, is known to be outside the cyclone belt, and we are considered high income. But when a cyclone hits neighboring Madagascar or Mauritius, the effects of adverse weather conditions affect all our islands, including our capital. In April 2016, Fantala, a Category 5 cyclone, hit one of our islands 3 times, destroying everything, including the communication network and homes of workers, creating 2 new islands in the lagoon. The resulting tsunami of the earthquake of December 2004 in Sumatra, Indonesia, thousands of miles away, traveled all the way to Seychelles, destroying human life and coastal infrastructure. My point is very simple. Don't categorize islands into economic bands, but treat all islands in the same manner and allow all of us to have access to the Loss and Damage Fund. We all lose from the damage you cause, yet we clean up our emissions and help mop up those of industrialized nations. The current criteria used to access concessionary finance puts seeds such as Seychelles at a severe disadvantage under the current labels. There is an urgent need to reform the multilateral international financial institutions to address the restrictive conditionalities. This reform is necessary to help fund climate change projects. In other words, finance needs to be more readily available, accessible, and affordable to support these projects. As the current chair of SEEDSDOC and the African Island States Climate Commission, my plea to COP28 is for the developed world and the multilateral international financial institutions to have a fresh look at the seeds, which in fact are large oceanic states, and to take into account our respective particularities. Despite contributing very little to global emissions, seeds like Seychelles bear the brunt of the climate crisis. We are actively engaged in decarbonizing our energy sector, including transitioning to green mobility. Additionally, as a dedicated environment champion, Seychelles remains committed to safeguard its terrestrial and marine ecosystems. When I signed the United Nations High Seas Treaty, or the BBNJ, earlier this year at the UN, I smiled to myself because, in a sense, Seychelles had already ratified it, since we are already protecting 32% of the ocean under our care. We are protecting nearly 100% of our seagrass and that of our mangroves, and another 50% of our scarce land mass. Recent sightings of blue whales in our waters after more than 60 years' absence serves as evidence that our conservation efforts are creating a safe haven for marine life. The message is loud and clear. Seychelles is a committed partner that can be trusted. We believe in what we preach, and we walk the talk. The evidence is there. However, we cannot do it alone. We need the financial support of the whole world to help the 100,000 people on these islands in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the metaphorical hourglass is dwindling. COP28 presents a pivotal call to action to build climate resilience before the last grain of sand slips away. In unity and determination, let us seize this moment to reverse our course and forge a sustainable and resilient future for generations to come. Let's not leave anyone behind. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. May I remind the speaker to maintain 3 minutes speaking time limit? Thank you. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, President of Turkey. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Saygıdeğer devlet ve hükümet başkanları,
distinguished heads of state and government, Honorable Secretary General,
milletim adına
on behalf of myself and my nation, I greet you all with most heartfelt feelings. I wish the World Climate Action Summit to be beneficial to all humanity.
makamlarına
I would like to thank the Emirates authorities for their warm hospitality.
dünyamız koronavirüs salgını
Our world is now confronted with the tragic consequences of the massacres in Gaza following the COVID-19 pandemic and the Ukraine-Russia war.
Türkiye tüm bu krizlerde
Turkey has stood